I was watching a race. It was a relay race. And I was watching the person that was in the last leg of the race come down the last section of the track. And she was behind. And about halfway to the finish line, she began digging in. And she eventually passed the two people that were in front of her, and she burst through that tape with elation. And when they interviewed her afterwards, they asked her, what was it that you were thinking about as you came down the stretch? And she said, I was thinking about all the work that my teammates had done. I was thinking about all the preparation that we had done. I was thinking about just getting through and getting to the end and being successful and seeing the fruits of all that we've done. And here we are right now, just like that racer, just like that runner, just like that team. We are at the end of our fast for this week. 72 hours. Can you believe that? 72 hours is where we are. And I'm excited. I'm thinking about all the benefits that come from fasting. I'm thinking about all the work that we've done this week. I'm thinking about all the spaces, all the connections, all the elation, all the emotions. I'm thinking about all the stuff that's happened this week. But yet here we are. We just broke through the tape. 72 hours in this week's fast. And I'm so excited. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E if you're new to me. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted, and we are living limitless lives, which says that we're not allowing anything from outside or anything from inside to prevent us from doing what we need to do. We're showing up with our best self, our best health, and the best plans for our lives. If you're new to me, go ahead and put new in the comments, because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And let you know that I'm excited that you're here in this space. If you have questions as we move throughout the episode, go ahead and drop those in the chat and put a Q in front of them, because I would love to get to those, and that way I will note that those are questions. We've got some good things that we're going to be talking about here. Of course, we are here to do our review of fasting, how to prepare for the fast, how to get through the fast and what's going on in our bodies, and of course, how to break the fast. And you'll get to see what I'm eating for the very first time after 72 hours in this week's fast. I've got my monitors, which we'll take a look at to see what's been going on with my blood sugars and my ketones. And then right down below me, that is my Dexcom Clarity report that we will review, so that we can see what's happening in the fasting space and what's been going on with my blood sugars. Just a quick shout out and welcome to everybody, whatever platform you're joining us from, whether that's Twitch or LinkedIn, or whether you are on Facebook, and of course here on YouTube. I welcome you to this space. If you're joining us because you saw our content on some other platform, whether it's your doctor's office, you saw it at your church and your community center, someone else showed it to you, welcome you. And a special shout out to our folks from Atlanta Berean in Atlanta. Thank you for coming through. And then of course, those who are here from Riverside in Nashville, thank you for popping in and hanging out with us as we move through this amazing space of improving our diabetes and reversing our chronic diseases and righting our metabolism. We'll come back. We'll make more mention to that here in just a minute. But if you're coming to us, if you're joining us for the first time, or if you've been with us, some new things that you will see as you move through our space. If you go to our YouTube channel, as an example, you'll see that we've streamlined that to make it much simpler for you to get started and for you to walk along this process with us. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at that. On the YouTube channel now, we've simplified things. And you'll see this is our episode that's going on right here, right now. It says upcoming, but it's actually started. And then right down below us is a Start Here playlist. The Start Here is intended when you come to the website. If you want to know the path that we're on, if you want to walk along that journey with us, that's where you start. And this is a curated list of episodes that we've done that gives you the pivotal information that you need to walk along this journey with us and to get started quickly. If you go into the description of that playlist, there is a PDF that you can download, right? That walks you through those episodes. I'm going to actually go ahead and copy that right now. I'm going to drop it in the chat. But you can go ahead and you can download that free PDF, and it breaks the videos that you're going to be watching into different sections and tells you what you will be getting as you get to those various parts of the video. Okay, so make sure you get over there and download that, because we want to make sure that you are getting that, getting those benefits. Also on the channel, when you get to the channel, in addition to that playlist, you will see that there is another playlist that you will find, and let me pull that up here really quickly. There's another playlist that you will see, and the playlist says this week's videos, and those videos are the ones for this week. So that is, if you're coming to the channel, not sure where to start, hey, what are we doing? What are they doing this week? That's the one that you would look, and it's actually right below the one that I just showed you. I'm just trying to get back there. And that, by the way, is my Freestyle Libre that's telling me my blood sugar is low. So here we are. So right here it says this week's videos, and this is all the list of videos that we've done that we've done this week, starting with our flagship show on Monday nights, Dwain Woode MD live, and then our strength strategy and mindset, our pop-up lives where we showed what we ate for the last meal before we got into the fast, and then of course all the other episodes that we've done this week. So that's a great place for you to get over to. Let me go to our website. When you go to our website, that also has been streamlined in a way to help you get started as quickly as possible. So if you're pointing anybody, you can point them either to the YouTube channel or to the website. There's a welcome message from me here. And then in this section, it says, new here. Are you new here, basically? So start here, and you'll see a button to that same playlist that we just talked about. It says start watching the videos. You can go directly there, and then right next to it, if you click on this button right here, you can actually download that free PDF guide that I talked about that walks you through the information on the website or on the YouTube channel. Okay, all right, and then I can't go without plugging our MOVE campaign. So we're in the middle of our MOVE campaign. You know, we did a 100-day walk to consistency, and right now we're in our strength, strategy, and mindset series. And if you've not taken the opportunity to get there with us yet, go ahead and get there with us. As you see, I'm out in my workout area, and we're doing some presses there. We've got some leg extensions. We've got some dumbbell presses. We've got some dead bugs that we're doing there on the floor. And all of this is with the intention of getting you moving, getting you walking through the Limitless Living Health Action Plan. And not only are we doing those exercises, but I don't want you to forget about our walking campaign either, because that is a part of the MOVE campaign. Remember, metabolic optimization via exercise. And here you see me kind of walking around near my office. But all of this is with the intention of giving you a space so that you don't have to improve, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Right, so we provided spaces for strength training, spaces for walking. Of course, we've got spaces for fasting, because we've got our check-ins that we do on a weekly basis. So make sure that you come along and that you are moving with us. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at blood sugars. And you heard my monitor going off there a little while ago. So let's go ahead and let's walk through that process. And here is this is my Freestyle Libre, and we're looking at, that's my number right there. That's what my blood sugar is, 56. And a lot of people will look at that and become concerned, but remember, I'm fasting, and so we're going to see what my ketones are here in just a minute. And then down below, here is the my graph and what my blood sugars have been over the last basically 12 hours. So one of the things that's new in this app is that we now are able to put your finger, remember, and we couldn't do this before, but in the new app for the Libre, you can actually put your finger and you can see what those blood sugars have been running, just like we're able to do in the Dexcom. And so here we are, and you'll see blood sugars have been below 70, right, for most of the last 12 hours. And that right now is not concerning to me because I'm fasting, and we're going to see what my ketones are here in just a minute. Okay. All right. Also looking at some of these reports, time in range. Let's do that for the last 14 days. You'll see that I'm in range 72% of the time. But the reason that it's only 72% is that 23% of that is low. So between lows and in range, I'm 100%. Average being 72%. I've mentioned that I recently got blood work for my doctor's visit that's coming up, and so we'll see what that is. Well, not here because I don't have them, but we'll see what those are. And so here is my my Dexcom, and my Dexcom is saying that my blood sugar right now is 50, and then coming down here, we see that the blood sugars have been kind of riding right around a little bit above 70. And so once again, putting my finger, you get to see what those numbers are: 80, 70, 60s. That was last night. And then I had to change. So here, my monitor went out or ended, so I had to change it, and I didn't change it until right about here. And so that's what you're seeing, that gap right there. But look at that. We're still in the 70s, 60s, 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 50s, and of course now where we are at 48, right? And then let's go over and let's take a look to see what's been going on with my monitors. I've got my Keto Mojo and I've got my Contour, and let's get into our container. We're gonna get a brown for blood sugar, we'll get a blue for ketones, we'll get, of course, our strip for the Contour. And then here we are, we'll get, put this one back. Now we'll get some Lancets. So let's hop back over here. And I'm going to put these off to the side. Get a strip for the Contour. And what do you think my ketones are going to be? Go ahead and begin dropping those guesses in, right? So 72 hours of fasting, what do you think they're going to be at this point? And let's get this in for the Keto Mojo. And I'm going to go ahead and open this one because this is one that always gives me trouble. So I'm going to just make sure that it's opened and ready to go. And so I've got this off. We'll put this off to the side here and then grab a, let's get that off the screen, and grab one of my Lancets. And as you know, I don't use a Lansing device. Let's move this over a little bit more. There we go. Ow. Didn't mean to do that. But anyway, that's my Lancet. You see that. And let's get a finger and get a poke. Ooh, 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 ow, that. And let's see, did we get a, yeah. Wasn't a brisk drop, but it was a good enough drop. We'll see if we can get 2 drops for these monitors, and then we'll need 1 more for the ketone. All right, and so you'll see right there that the Keto Mojo says that my blood sugar is 47. The Contour says 50, and then right there you see the Dexcom says 48. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one out so I can get the ketone strip in there. All right, so 72 hours of fasting. Let's go ahead and get that started. All right. So what do you think it's going to be? Put your drop. Put your guess in there. So 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, and 1, and 4.4. 4.4 is what that is. So let's go ahead and let's go over to my Keto Mojo app, And we're going to go ahead and get that synced. You can let that run. All right, so it says try again. Let's try one more time. And then we'll see if that doesn't work. We'll just go through and talk through. So remember ketones, when we talk about ketones, ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 are considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. So right now, let me take this one off the screen. So right now I am in the therapeutic ketosis range because I'm above 1.5. When we are fasting, we want ketones to be 0.5 or higher, particularly if we want to be in ketosis. Okay. Now there are some fasting regimens that don't take you into full ketosis. Some of the shorter ones, you don't actually get into ketosis with ketones that are 0.5 or higher. But for the most part, that's what we want. We want to be in ketosis, and we want ketones to be at least 0.5 or higher, because that means that a body is now burning fat, converting that into energy that we can use, and ketones come from burning the fat. If you are on a ketogenic diet or a fasting mimicking diet, then you want ketones to be 0.5 or higher as well, because that means that you're in the space where your body is doing beta oxidation, which is the breakdown of those fat cells to convert them into ketones. And that is what you want, because that gives you all of the benefits that we've been talking about. All right, those come as we are functioning and as our body is in that space. So finally it says finished. Let's go ahead and let's pull that over. And so here you are. And so we're looking, let's go ahead to this view. And so we're looking at these three numbers, right? So that big number that you see in the middle, and then the 2 at the bottom. So the big number we'll come back to talk about in a minute. That's the GKI, or glucose ketone index. And then down below, the blue is the ketones, and of course the one on the other side on the left is whatever that's red or brown. That's the blood sugar. And so because my blood sugar is low, and my ketones are high, that means that my body has to be burning fat. I want you to kind of keep that in mind. So my body has to be burning fat, because that's the only way for me to have low blood sugar and ketones, because blood sugar is normally what the body runs on. It runs on carbohydrates. It runs on sugar, glucose. So if the glucose is low, then the body now has to start looking for something else to use as energy, and that's where the ketones come from. And we'll come back and we'll talk about this here in just a little while. The GKI is simply a ratio of the glucose to ketones. But you're right now looking at those numbers and say, wait a minute, if I divide 47 by 4.4, that doesn't come out to be 0.5. So let me go ahead, let me pull my calculator up, and let's walk through that process together. All right, so let's see if, let me remember what those numbers were. So 47 and 4.4. Let me make sure, yeah, 47, 4.4. So if I take my blood sugar, right, 47, to convert it into international units, I divide it by 18. Right, that gives me a number. And then I divide that by my ketones, which were 4.4. And that gives me that 0.5 that you saw right here. Okay, so 0.5. And so when we're fasting, when we're talking about ketosis, we want the GKI to be as low as possible, 0.5 in this case, and we want the glucose to be low, and we want the ketones to be high. And so if we have that picture, then we know that we are burning calories, we're burning fat, because the body has to be using that as our source of energy. Okay, let's go ahead and let's go and look at my actual blood sugars over the last little bit. And so here I am, and this is a 14-day view, an overview of the last 14 days, and you see that my average blood sugar is 106. So we usually tell people we want their average blood sugar to be between 100 and 120, and so that's in keeping with that. My time in range is 97, with the range being anywhere from 70 to 180. And my glucose management indicator is 5.8. And that means that if I were to get an A1C, I would expect my A1C to approximate a 5.8. Okay? I can't call it A1C because it's a calculated number, but it should be pretty close to that. If I change my view and look at the last 90 days, because that's really what the A1C will measure, my average for the last 90 days is 113, once again keeping between that 100 and 120 that we talked about. I'm in target 98% of the time, target still being 70 to 180, and my glucose management indicator is 6.0. Right, so 6.0. If I were to get an A1C, once again, it would approximate that. So, you know, couple of points higher, a couple of points lower, tenths of a point, not points. 6.0. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at actual blood sugars as we look through the graph. And this is a 90-day view. And I'm going to go back and start with when we started our fast. And so we started our fast right here on Tuesday. And so we fasted on Wednesday, on Thursday, and then of course today on Friday as we're breaking that fast. It was what we want to see. So right here, my blood sugar was in the 90s to 100s. And go back and watch. If you have not seen what I ate for that last meal, go back and watch that. And so let's now trace the blood sugar from the time I ate over into where we are now. And so I ate right here, finished eating, and the blood sugars in the 90s to 100s, 90s to 100s, 108. Popped up, I think it went up to 115 and then started coming back down and into that's the rest of that day. Coming into the next morning, here we are, 100 in the 90s, down into the 80s. And here is what I usually call the toothpaste effects. We're in the 90s, and I think it popped up to about so 109 was the highest. And then 90s, 80s, and some of these breaks that you see here, that was I was sleeping. And so when you sleep, sometimes when you turn over the sensor can lose connection, and so that's probably what you're seeing here in those gaps. And then continues to drop, continues to go down into the 70s, and is just now kind of hanging out in the 70s and 80s. Now going to the next morning, and so by the way, let's go back here. So right here, this is 24 hours, right? So 24 hours. So we went from in the upper 90s, hundreds, and now in the 80s and 90s. That's 24 hours. So going into the next morning, so we're in the 80s, drop down into the 70s. And once again, here's my toothpaste effect, and that took us up to 97, but not as high as we were seeing before. And then dropping, 70s. And now we're starting to go 70s, 60s, 70s, 60s, 70s, 60s. And we talked about the reason for that fluctuation above 70, below 70 in our show last night. And now 60s, 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 70s, back up into the 70s. So that's midnight. And then into today. And let's go back here, actually. Right here, we were at 48 hours. So remember, we went from the 90s, 100s to 80s, 70s, and now we're in the 70s and 80s. And then, of course, coming into where we are now, 70s, and then at some point, so we had to change. The sensor went out at about 2 o'clock, and we didn't change that until this morning, about 7 o'clock. But look at that. For most of today, since we had this on, we've been in the 50s and 60s, right, up to where we are now. So that's what's been going on, and that's really what we want when we talk about what we want blood sugars to be as we're in a fast, as we get through a fast. We want those blood sugars to be hanging out in that range, so that we can see those types of benefits. All right, so let's go ahead and let's say hello. I do see. Actually, before we do that, let me do a quick check-in, because this is an important They're all important, but this is an important one because we are at the end of our 72-hour fast, and just want to talk about what's going on within me as we continue through this fast. So there are three phases or three places that are of paramount importance when we talk about fasting. That's how we're doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. These are the places where people tend to have their biggest challenge. These are also, if you remember back to our domains of health, these are also three of the domains of health. Yeah, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And when we talk about preparing for fasting, these are three of the areas that we talk about: physically, mentally, and emotionally, because they are very, very important. So how am I doing physically? When we talk about physically, when it comes to fasting, usually people are talking about energy, how they are doing in terms of their energy and what they feel as they move through the fast. Right now, I'm feeling pretty energetic. Yesterday, I mentioned in our check-in that I was a little bit more tired than usual, particularly as I was out with my son as we were doing our strength, strategy, and mindset series, or I should say workout. So I was having difficulty with the presses, right? So I could do the curls, the squats, the leg swings, the dead bugs, the pelvic tilts, the stomach crunches, all of those were good, but it was just when I was doing the presses with a dumbbell press on the workout bench, or when I did the curl and press, that was the place where I had the most difficulty. And then at the end of the workout, we normally do that balance exercise if you've been following us. So that one, I just continued to have to like tap my foot down to keep in balance. And my son noted, he said, you're only doing that on your left side. And so, my left side is weaker. Left side is weaker than the right. So not sure what was going on there. But today, feeling energetic, not feeling as though I'm walking through sand or walking through mud, as some people will say. I'm not feeling lightheaded, sweaty, or dizzy. And that part has to do with my hydration. And so doing a good job right now of hydrating. And did a good job this week of hydrating as well. So physically doing well. Mentally, this tends to go with the physical, because when you're tired, you're trying to process, trying to think, trying to come up with words, and they don't flow as well. And I'm doing well. We actually saw patients today, and I'm just coming back to do the show on the heels of seeing patients this morning. We don't typically see patients on Fridays, but this is one of those Fridays where we did. And so felt clear, felt as though I was on my game, not feeling fuzzy-headed, as I said, or dull. And so emotionally also, at 72 hours of fasting, man, when you get here, I was going to say if you get here. No, I'm not going to say if. When you get here, when you are able to do a 72-hour fast, the clarity that comes as you move into this space is amazing. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the hormonal changes that go on in this space. But this is an amazing process. And the clarity that comes, the connections that you make, the feeling that you get, the hormonal regulation that happens, the fact that the food noise is gone and I'm not distracted by hunger and food is just amazing. And so right now, just emotionally feeling pretty high, feeling energetic, feeling joyous. As a matter of fact, in the way this morning in the car, pulled out my phone, put it on the stand, and started just talking about where I was, and just excited. Okay, so physically, mentally, and emotionally. Whenever you are doing anything where you want to see what's going on, you want to make sure that you're checking in with yourself, and that's why I do the check-in, so that you can hear and get to know where I am as we are. As we're in that space. And then let's go ahead and say hello to community members, because I see some of you out there. Just want to say hello. Let's see there we are. And I believe Juyon was the first one to come through. So Juyon, hello. She says, hi, doctor. I'm awake. She says she woke up suddenly. Hi, LLG. Hey, Juyon. Thank you for coming through. And we were on your mind, I'm guessing. And Gian says 2.9. She was already starting to put her guess in for my ketones. 3.2, another ketone guess. And as you saw, my ketones were 4.4. Let me hop over there for those of you who came in a little later. So here's that's my blood sugar results for today, as we just did. So glucose was 4.7, ketones, sorry, not 4.7. Glucose was 47, ketones 4.4, and then my GKI was 0.5. All right. Okay. So Gian was giving her guess, and she says, wow, she says the first time that we see ketones of 4.4. I think that's been the first time in a while. I think we did it, I can't remember when, but some time ago, but you're right. That is the highest that we've had. And I've adjusted, as we mentioned before, I've adjusted some of what I do to take care of that toothpaste effect that was going on. And I know one of our other community members was commenting in our community this week, actually, about about blood sugar and toothpaste. So it is a thing. It is a thing. So Gian says, great, doctor. It says it's amazing to see your progress. She said progress. Ketone is awesome. Your body's burning fat so perfectly. My body's burning fat, and it's metabolically flexible at this point. Kenti says hello to Gian. Hi, Kenti. She says 3 a.m. there. Kenti says you are 5:20 a.m. Talking about Kenti. Saw your comment on yesterday's live about your dad. Wish him good luck in fighting the disease. Yes, thank you for saying that, Kenti. And Kenti, 6:25 where she is. So Gian is 3 a.m. Kenti is 6:25, and of course here we are at 1:34. I can say, I guess the Americans are all at work. More will surely come in soon, though. Thank you, Kenti, Gian. I cannot sleep well since my dad was sick. So, Gian, our thoughts and our prayers go out to you. It's be a hard week for you, for sure. Praying for you, yes. And then Cornelia says, hi, Dr. Woode, Gian, and Kenti. She said, I'm at work listening. You all have a great day. Thank you. Thank you for coming through. Gian said, thank you, Kenti. Hi, sis. And hello, happy Friday. Oh, just an amazing group, amazing community that we have here. So I'm always excited when the community comes together and we get to support each other. One of our pushes has been, of course, our Triple E Formula for Success that says that we are doing everything that we can to support each other, right? So we educate, we empower, and we encourage, and all of that is with the intention of giving support to everyone as we move through this process. So let's go ahead and let's take a look. We're going to go ahead and do our discussion as we move into our fasting. So let's go ahead and let's do that right now. Oh, all right. So we are fasting, y'all. 72 hours. 72 hours of fasting. And in this fasting space, we talk about all the benefits that happen. So let's run through quickly why we're fasting, what we hope will happen, and then let's get into how do we prepare, how do we get through, and then how do we break a fast. So why are we doing what we're doing? We're doing this because when we think about our current society, when we think about people that are around us, our family, our friends, our coworkers, our neighbors, people in our churches and people in our community centers, the statistic says that the majority of them, upwards of 90% of the people that are in our circle, have a metabolic disease. As you know, metabolism is the process the body goes through of converting food into energy. So somewhere in their life, somewhere in their history, somewhere in their present, somewhere in their future, It's actually somewhere right now, I shouldn't say in the future, upwards of 90% of people have some metabolic disorder. That's everything from high cholesterol, high blood pressure, fatty liver, obesity, prediabetes, diabetes, at risk for cancers, heart disease, strokes. All of those are diseases along the spectrum of metabolism. So 90%, upwards of 90%. And so the numbers continue to climb. If we go back 100 years ago, the things that people had problems with were injury or infection. They got an infection, somehow we couldn't treat it, it wasn't treated quickly, and so they had problems going forward. They got injured, they fell, something hit them, something, whatever it was, they stepped on something, they got all of those. That's what caused problems. Today, though, our morbidity and mortality comes in an overwhelming number from metabolism or metabolic diseases. So our goal, and you heard me say at the top of the show, our goal is how do we reverse that? Because the numbers get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Around the world, on the planet right now, there are over 1 billion, that's billion with a B, 1 billion people who suffer from prediabetes or diabetes. That's prediabetes and diabetes. Not to mention the people who have had heart attacks, strokes, people who are overweight, people who have fatty liver, people who have high blood pressure, people who have high cholesterol. This is just prediabetes and diabetes. And so our path, our goal is how do we reverse that process? How do we begin to make a dent? Why is it important to make that dent? Because often when we talk, we couch it in the numbers. We couch it in the blood pressure. We couch it in the weight. We couch it in, the high cholesterol. And I want to make it a little human for you today. The reason that this is important is because there are countless numbers, thousands of people who are not around to see their children grow up, who are not around to enjoy their marriage into their golden years, who are not around to teach their grandchildren how to do some of the things that they did, who are not around to get the value from the number of years that they've worked. They put time in, and at the end of all of that, after they've put all of that in, they are not able to enjoy that time because they're in a hospital, they've had a heart attack, their weight is too high so they can't move, they can't go walking on those trips that they wanted to go on, all those places they wanted to see, they can't do that because their metabolism has put them in a health position that makes it difficult for that to happen. All the people who are now isolated because they've had some physical ailment that comes from metabolism, so they are now isolated. So they can't get up and drive over to their daughter's house. They can't get up and drive over to their son's house. They can't get up and go pick the grandchildren up because somebody now has to come get them to take them, and everybody's working. And so their mobility is decreased. So we talk about the numbers, but I want those numbers to make sense to you. Why do we do that? What is the importance of that? You hear us talk about metabolism and metabolism. It may sound like a theoretical word, but I want it to be practical for you in your life. What is it that your dysfunctional metabolism is preventing you from doing? Or what issue is it causing in your life right now? That's what we want to get rid of. That's what we want to reverse. That's what we want to improve. And so the Limitless Living Health Action Plan is a process that says we've got these pillars that we are walking through. We've got these things that we're doing that will help us move in the direction of being successful. And the Limitless Living Health Action Plan, there are 7 pillars, 3 tiers. Tier 1 is walking and fasting. Tier 2, strength training and balanced bites. Tier 3, rest and recovery, tier and mental mastery. And then our fourth tier that ties it all together is structure and planning. And so we are in the process right now of talking about that second pillar in tier 1, which is fasting. Fasting is a tool that allows us to reset our metabolism, to improve the process, and to begin resetting, gutting, if you will, refreshing our body so that we can begin taking advantage of all the other components that are in that health action plan. And so because fasting is a tool, we want to know, how do we use that tool effectively? Just like if you have a hammer or you have some new tool that you bought at the house, you want to know when to use it and how to get the best benefit out of it. I don't get mad at the hammer when I have to use it. I may get mad at the thing that came off the wall, right? But I don't get mad at the tool. The tool is simply a tool, and fasting is simply a tool. And so how do I use fasting successfully to get the benefit? What does fasting do? What are the benefits? What am I looking for when I fast? And this comes, and it's couched in 3 pillars of the reversing diabetes process. The 3 pillars of reversing diabetes: decreasing insulin, suppressing the appetite, and reducing sugar. Decreasing insulin, because at the base of this metabolic dysfunction that we were just talking about, the primary culprit of that is insulin, hyperinsulinemia. Not just normal, regular insulin that's made in your body and is at an appropriate level. It is when that insulin level becomes higher than we need that it causes a problem. So we don't want to demonize insulin, because insulin does what it's supposed to do. It regulates your blood sugar. That's its job. But when we're asking insulin to do more than it should, then it has to ramp up the process. It's kind of like you having a car and you're driving on the highway and you've got your foot on the gas and the car is going at a speed that you want, right? Whatever the speed limit is. Well, if the road all of a sudden, if you start going up a hill, what do you have to do? You've got to hit that accelerator harder. You've got to give it more gas to get it up the hill, because what you're asking the car to do at that point is more than it was doing before. So in our bodies, our insulin is designed to treat our blood sugar at a certain level. But when we add additional weight, when we add additional expectations to the insulin, then the body begins producing more insulin. Just like that car needs more gas, then the body needs more insulin to keep us going. And so when that insulin becomes abnormally high, hyperinsulinemia, that's that phrase, then the excess causes a problem. It's kind of like that same car, right? You're driving normally, not a problem. But you start going up the hill, you hit the gas, what happens? Out of the back, in the exhaust, you start to see smoke. Why? Because the car is now burning more. And so the problem out the back is not a problem of the car itself or the gas, is that we're using more. The same thing in the body. The insulin that's in our body is doing its function, but because we're asking it to do more, asking the body to do more, the body produces more insulin, and it's the elevated insulin that causes the problem. So hyperinsulinemia. So number 1, decreasing insulin. So if we can decrease insulin, then we begin improving the metabolism. Number 2, reducing the appetite. Insulin is an appetite stimulant. And so when insulin is high, then we get cravings. We begin to eat as though we can't be satiated. People will say, I don't know what's happening. I just am hungry all the time. And you're hungry all the time because your body is making a lot of insulin. And we're not even talking here about diabetics. We're talking about anybody who is alive. If you start to have too much insulin in your body, you will start eating more because it's an appetite stimulant. Insulin is a weight increaser. It's a storage hormone. So anytime insulin goes up, our weight will go up, our appetite will go up, we'll start having cravings that we never had before. It feels like we can't get satisfied. All of that happens because of hyperinsulinemia. So if we can suppress the appetite, so less insulin, which is appetite stimulant, now we have less appetite, we don't have those cravings, and that now leads into reducing sugar, which is the third pillar. Because if we have a lot of sugar in our body, guess what the body has to do? It has to produce a lot of insulin. So you see the connection? Decreasing insulin, suppressing the appetite, reduce sugar. Now that works in diabetics, but it also works in high cholesterol, works in hypertension, works in fatty liver, works in obesity, works in prediabetes, and you can go on and on and on down that list. All of that comes as a benefit of us righting the metabolism, and that comes as a benefit of fasting. Now, we could spend a lot of time talking about fasting and going through all of the different facets of it, but let's hop in now. So that's why we do fasting. That's why we do fasting. That's what we're expecting from fasting. So let's talk about what it means for us to fast and how do we do it? How do we do it successfully? So whenever I talk about fasting, I talk about three different components of fasting. That is, how do we prepare for the fast? How do we get through the fast and what's going on in the body? And then how do we break the fast? So preparing for the fast, fasting successfully, and then breaking the fast. So we'll talk about those three different components as we move through the rest of our conversation here together. So how do we get ready for the fast, right? How to get ready for the fast. So we've spent time talking about three different things. And so we talked earlier when we did our check-in, we talked about different components, right? So physically, mentally, and emotionally. How am I doing physically, mentally, and emotionally? And so in those spaces, when we talk about our health, when we talk about fasting, we want to do a check-in. And the reason that physically, mentally, and emotionally are important is because those are the three places where people tend to have their most difficulty. They have their most difficulty in these spaces. And so let's spend a couple minutes talking about those, because ultimately how we prepare for the fast determines how successful we are in the fast. So physically, mentally, and emotionally. Physical preparation encompasses a lot of different features. We talk about physical preparation, we're talking about our rest, we're talking about our hydration, we're talking about our nutrition, we're talking about our exercise, our movement. All of that falls under physical. So if you are not rested, then the fasting becomes difficult. Because your body is already going to be going through a lot of hormonal changes, neuronal changes, is going to be going through a transition from one energy source to another. So there are changes going on in your body, particularly if you are fasting. If you're new to fasting and you're fasting for the first time, then those things will occur and you will feel them more profoundly than you should if you are not doing a good job of resting. So coming into the fast, you want to make sure you're rested. Hydration is important because if you're not hydrated, your body will increase the flow of your blood in order for it to do that so that it can take the same nutrients, the same oxygen to the rest of your cells. It increases the heart rate. And so the heart rate goes up. So people feel palpitations, feel like the heart's racing and skipping a beat. When you stand up, because you don't have a complete, a full set of volume, your blood drops. It goes down to your legs when you first stand up. That's how the body works. And your body's supposed to pump that back to the heart so that the heart is able to pump it to your brain. Well, because the volume is lower, it is a little sluggish. So you stand up initially, and the body doesn't have that robust squeezing of the lower extremities to pump the blood back to the heart. And so for a brief moment, all the blood that you need to your brain doesn't go. And so you feel lightheaded, dizzy, and woozy. Direct result of not doing a good job of hydration. So rest, important. Hydration, important. Eating, important. Eating is important because how you come into the fast, the food that you eat as you get into the fast, very important as to what goes on in the fast itself. As an example, I'm going to pull up my report. And this is the report that we have. So I started my fast right over here. Started my fast right there. And so in my fast, my goal, and in your fast, the goal is not to have big spikes in blood sugar. So the things that you eat coming into the fast should allow you, and let's go here, there we go, we should allow you to have blood sugars that are pretty stable. So starting here, we started our fast here, ended my eating, and so tracking that blood sugar going forward, right? So started in the 90s, in the hundreds, in the 90s, going into the next morning, right? In the 90s, in the low hundreds, and right about here, we're at 24 hours. So we started in the 90s and hundreds. Now we're 24 hours into this week's fast, and there we are in the 80s and 90s. And then moving through the rest of that day, and then into the next morning, right? 80s, 90s, dipping down into the 70s. And here we are coming up at 48 hours. Now we're in the 60s and 70s. And then the blood sugars continue to go down, 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 dipping into the 60s, 70s, and then into our 72-hour fast now. And so here we are at 72 hours into the 50s and 60s. So when we're talking about fasting, when we talk about our eating, we want our blood sugars to remain relatively stable, because if it does not, if you're getting high fluctuations, then in order for your body to treat the blood sugars and bring them down, it has to produce insulin. And we just said that insulin, too much insulin, hyperinsulinemia, is the culprit behind all the problems that we see. So we don't want that to be the case. We don't want a lot of insulin. We want our bodies to take little time, as little as possible, to burn the sugar that's in our body and then begin going to our liver, taking that out because it takes 24 to 36 hours. And then we want it to go to the fat cells because now we're getting the beta oxidation, we get the ketosis, we get the weight loss, all those things that we talk about, that comes as our body is able to switch and transition. So physically, our physical preparation is of paramount importance if we're going to do the best job of using the fasting for the benefit we want, right? That's the tool. And so the fasting works best when the things that are around it supporting it are working. It's just like that tool that you have in your garage. If you don't keep it well, if it's a saw, right, and you don't do a good job, just hitting it all over the place, and the teeth are all rusted, then when you get ready to use it, guess what? It's not going to work the way you expected it to work. If you got a chisel, and I can't tell you the last time I used a chisel, but there's one in there if I need it. When you have a chisel, if you're not, if you're constantly using it and then you don't sharpen it, guess what? It's not going to work the way you want it to work. So the things that we do around fasting are just as important as the fast. That's why preparing for the fast is included in my discussion of how do you fast successfully. And so just some tips as we talk about the preparing for the fast, just some things I want you to take away from this as we're moving to our next phase. And we want you to remember that preparation is key. How you prepare directly impacts what goes on in the fast and how successful you are. Preparation, we want to prepare mentally. And we didn't spend a lot of time talking about mental, but the lenses through which we see the fasting is very important in how successful we're going to be with the fast. Because if you come into the fast begrudgingly, like I really don't want to do this, but they told me it's going to be good, so I guess I'll do it. Yeah. Remember, fasting is a tool. Fasting is a choice. And so if you are coming to it with the proper mentation, then the fast goes well. So get good rest, eat nutrient-dense meals, and then one that I didn't talk about is get into community. Make sure that you are involved in a community that will support you during your fast. We have an amazing community that we are here a part of. So get into community. Make sure that you are moving in your community, because community is going to help you tremendously. And so then so that's the preparing for the fast. And then the successful fasting, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that fasting, if done right, will give you tremendous benefits, and actually give you benefits that you actually did not anticipate. Physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally. We can go through all the E's, right? Those are the domains of health. So when we talk about fasting, I talk about it in different chunks, so 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. We're going to do a little bit more finally as we get into our discussion. And the first is an important point that I want you to get. And that point is that when you stop eating, those first 6 hours are not technically considered fasting. They're considered the postprandial period. Postprandial meaning that my body is in the process of sorting, filtering all the things that we just ate. So postprandial period. So it's kind of like going to the grocery store and you come home with a bunch of food and a bunch of groceries, and what you're doing is you're not putting them in different places. So we're not quite in the fast yet. So the body is now taking all of that and is dropping it into the liver, packaging it up, sending it to the fat cells, sending it to the muscles, all of those spaces. It is in the process of just refining or sorting that stuff, the food that you ate. So how you come into the fast, if you come into the fast with high blood sugars, the body has to process those sugars before it can get to your liver. And so we can negate or circumvent the process that the body is going through if we don't do a good job of preparation. That's why I talked about the food that we ate. And then the next 6 to 12 hours, we're talking about the early fasting stage. So this now is where the body is saying, okay, I've taken all the food that you gave me, I've sorted it, I've sent some to the liver, some to the fat cells, I've sent some to the muscles for storage, and now my blood sugars are going down, my insulin level is dropping, now I get to go and I get to take some of that out and I get to use it. It's kind of like that same scenario of coming home from the grocery store and you've put everything where it needs to be, and now you're ready to cook. What do you have to do? You have to go back to the refrigerator, go back to the cabinet, go back to the pantry, and take stuff out because you're about to use it. And that's what the body's doing in this early fasting stage. In the next stage, this is our 12 to 18 hours, we're transitioning to using fat. So I've used up all the stuff that's in the blood. I am using up all the stuff that's in the liver, and now I've got to find another source of energy. So in this phase, the body's beginning to transition into using fat. Now notice that it's not all gone yet. And most of us, when we're not fasting, we're beginning to eat again. And so one of the important points here is that what fasting does, fasting allows us to go back, for instance, going back to our example of going to the grocery store. So you go to the grocery store, you come home, you put all the stuff where it needs to be, and you have, you buy bulk. So the bulk stuff goes in the pantry. And you're using the stuff, right, that you bought that's in the refrigerator, that's in the freezer, and so forth, and then you go to the pantry to get some more stuff. Well, suppose you go and you're using up all the stuff in the refrigerator. You've used up the stuff, you've cooked it, you've eaten it, and then you go to the pantry and you get some more. But the pantry still is packed. But then you go back to the store and they have a sale. Well, you go, you buy the stuff, you bring it home, and you put it in the pantry. Well, you never used up the stuff that was there in the first place. So now you have not the stuff that was there, not just the stuff that was there, but you have the stuff that you actually now brought home in addition. And that's what happens often, that we are constantly putting more things in, and so the body never gets a chance to go and use up what's there, which is this idea of the fat cells. The fat cells continue to grow and expand because we continually put stuff in. And people say, well, I didn't eat for 12 hours. As you just saw, it doesn't matter if you didn't eat for 12 hours. Because it takes more than 12 hours for the body to use up what's in just the liver, much less to now go to the fat cells and begin using it. So you still got a bunch of stuff in your refrigerator. You haven't even gotten to the pantry yet. And yet you went out and you bought more stuff and brought it home. Well, guess what? The stuff in the pantry is going to keep building up. So that's this idea of the transition to using fat. In this space, the body is beginning to do that, beginning to look at what we need to do to pull some of that out. And then the next phase is where ketosis begins. So now the glycogen from the liver is gone, it's depleted, and the body is now looking at fat cells and burning them to bring the blood sugar down. And this is an amazing process. This is where we are excited when we see that the glucose is low and the ketones are high, because in this process now, we begin to see changes in our weight. We begin to see those numbers continue to fall because the body is now burning fat cells. And when it burns fat, that is weight. As long as we continue putting things in, the weight continues to go up. And because insulin is a storage hormone, the thing that probably drives the most weight gain are the carbs that we eat. People will say to me, but my blood sugars are normal. And the question is, how much insulin does the body have to produce to keep the blood sugars normal despite the things that we eat? I want you to think about that and follow that train of thought. My blood sugars are normal. That's great. How did my blood sugar get normal despite the fact that I'm eating lots of pasta and lots of cake and lots of ice cream and lots of chips? How does my body keep the blood sugar normal? It has to produce insulin. How much insulin does it have to produce for all the things I'm eating? A lot. And so when I see normal blood sugar and weight goes up, then my question is, how much insulin is the body producing? Because when that insulin comes out, oh yeah, the weight's going up. So even people who have normal A1Cs, normal blood sugar, you go to your doctor and they check your numbers and everything is normal. Well, how much, and the weight's going up, how much insulin do we have to produce to get there? And that is the question that we often don't talk about. So ketosis is the beginning. The body is now burning fat. It is converting it to ketones, and we are excited about this space because when this is happening, we know that we're getting those benefits that comes from the benefits that come from the fasting. And then the next is fat adaptation. So 24 to 30 hours, the body is now in the process of using fat as energy. We know that's happening. because the 24 to 36 hours is when it takes for the body to get rid of the liver glycogen. So that's getting through the fast. And then how do we break the fast successfully? And for this, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to hop back over here because I want you to see what we are having for our meal to break our fast right now. And so so it's a little different than we've normally done. So as you know, I always use a salad. So a salad is a must for lots of different reasons, because the salad gives me bulk. The salad gives me nutrients. It gives me some hydration. But several things that the salad does is salad helps me with my stretch in my stomach. And you know that our stomach, when it's stretched, it sends a signal to our brain that says, hey, don't eat anymore. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get something in that says to my brain, hey, don't eat a lot. So I eat the salad. And the salad is based on our balanced bites. So let's walk through that together. What is balanced bites? What is that? Balanced bites is our way of thinking about food. So whole foods, minimize processed foods, no added sugar, lean protein, healthy fats, starchy, non-starchy vegetables, tasty and flavorful, and it has to be portion controlled. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go back to what I'm eating. So here's my salad, and my salad is whole foods. There are some processed things in here, so the dressing is going to be processed. There's some feta cheese and some Parmesan cheese that's on the top that's going to be processed. Minimize, so no sugar, no added sugar. So once again, the things that would have sugar would be the dressing, the salad dressing that's there. Pretty much it. Minimize processing, right? So once again, we went through that. Lean protein, healthy snacks. Now, what I've done, and I don't know if you can see, I'm going to hold this up a little bit, is notice that there's no, I don't have any chicken or any kind of beef or salad, or I usually do salmon. So what I have right here are chickpeas and black beans. Chickpeas and black beans. So that's what I'm using as my protein in this meal. So lean protein, healthy fats. I've got some eggs. Actually, that's protein as well. So I've got some eggs, some boiled eggs that are sliced, that are under here. Starchy and non-starchy vegetables. Not a lot of starchy vegetables in here. So I've got baby spinach. I've got, of course, lettuce that's under there. I've got some broccoli. I've got cauliflower. I've got cucumbers, and then I've got some carrots. So not a whole lot of starchy vegetables, lots of non-starchy vegetables. Oh, in the fat, I've got avocados as well. So whole foods, no added sugar, minimize processing, lean protein, healthy snacks, starchy, non-starchy vegetables, portion controlled, right? So this is a pretty good portion. This is a normal portion. And flavorful and tasty. Yeah. It looks tasty. It smells good. Yeah. And so the dressing that I have, and I told you that I have a restaurant here that I've just discovered, not just discovered the restaurant, but I've discovered their salad dressing. And it is a horseradish salad dressing. And then they also have a Caesar salad dressing. So I combine those two, and I put some balsamic vinaigrette in it, very light, and just drizzle it over here. So back to my salad. The other things that I have in here, I've got some banana peppers, that you see here. I've got tomatoes. I've got olives that are in there, and I've got some red onions. All right, so that's what we're going to be doing. That's what we're going to be eating. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually start eating. All right, so I'm going to take my first bite, and here you see it. The first bite, let me do it this way. First bite after 72 hours of fasting, and that is delicious. Okay, so let's put that off to the side. Let's talk a little bit more about breaking the fast. So when we break the fast, there are a couple of things that I want you, a couple of tips that I want you to have. Number one, monitor blood sugars. Now you see, I am a big proponent of monitoring blood sugars because even if I'm not diabetic, I want to know what different things do in my body, what the foods do. I want to know what exercise does. I want to know what sleep does. And I want to know what stress does. So monitoring the blood sugars gives me an indication of the places where I need to do more work, where I need to refine. So even if I'm eating, if I think I'm eating well, and my body responds in a certain way to a particular food where my blood sugar goes up, guess what? That's a food I need to be cautious of. So it's not a judgment. It is a tool that I'm using to be able to regulate what I do if I'm going to work on my metabolism. So number one, monitor blood sugars. If you can, also monitor ketones. Number two, portion control. Often it's not that we're eating the wrong thing, but we're eating too much of the thing. So it's not that you are eating pasta, it's that you're eating a whole thing of pasta. You go to the restaurant and they give you that plate, that bowl that's like humongous. And we think because they gave it to us, we've got to eat all of it because that's the serving size. That's not a serving size. So watch your portions. Eat slowly because it takes about 20 minutes for the body to send a signal from my stomach to my brain that I'm full when my stomach stretches. So eat slowly. That's another reason why I eat the salad first, because it gives me bulk, my stomach stretches, and in the meantime, the signal is on its way to my brain. And then to avoid sugary and processed foods. The reason for that is that when we eat sugary foods, our blood sugars spike and insulin comes out. And the moment insulin comes out, then we're off to the races. Our cravings go up, our weight go up. And for the next, when you're breaking your fast, the next 36 hours, you're going to eat exactly what you ate to break the fast. So if you're eating things that are causing cravings, then you're going to be craving for the next 36 hours. And often people will say, oh, the fasting doesn't work for me because when I stopped fasting, I couldn't stop eating. Well, you couldn't stop eating because of the very first thing you ate after the fast. So make sure that you're paying attention to those things, because that will have a big impact on what goes on and how successful you are in the fast. So a couple of other things that I want you to note is that when you're eating, make sure that you're paying attention to the types of things you're eating. Number one, I want you to make sure you're hydrated. When we prepare for the fast, we want to make sure we're hydrated. When we're in the fast, we want to be hydrated. When we break the fast, we want to be hydrated. Most of us at the end of the fast are probably going to be slightly dehydrated, because when you don't think about eating, you also don't think about drinking. So water, always good. Coconut water, unsweetened, of course. Herbal teas, very good for our hydration. So hydration. The next thing is to make sure that as you're eating, you're putting proteins. Now, the next couple of things we're going to talk about, proteins and fat, if you are thinking balanced bites, what you will eat will fall in line with the next couple of things I'm going to say. So you want proteins that are lean, so things like eggs, they're versatile, chicken or turkey breast, tofu or tempeh for those of you who are plant-based, so that you are giving yourself foods that will help to satiate you What does that mean? That protein helps to keep you fuller longer, so that when you end the fast, if you've done a good job of putting proteins in, then you're not craving going out of the fast. Healthy fats would be the next thing. And healthy fats, you saw I have some avocados in my what I'm about to eat. I've got I don't have any nuts or seeds, but those are great options for healthy fats as well. So in my case, I have the avocado. All right, so I've got the avocado, and I have some eggs that I've used, right? Some sliced boiled eggs. And what else do I have in here? And then I've got some feta cheese. Okay. So be mindful as you are putting your fats together on what you're going to eat. And then back to hydration for a moment. When you're hydrating, you can, of course, I said teas, but you can also use broths. So vegetable broths, bone broth. These are all things you can use to break the fast, and also things you can use as you get out of the fast into your eating window. And then some considerations for you to remember. When you're breaking the fast, you want to choose foods that help to keep your blood sugar stable while offering you nutrition and are gentle on the GI tract. You're going to focus on low glycemic index foods, typically 50 or less for the glycemic index, lean proteins, healthy fats, and of course, hydration, hydration, hydration. Did I say hydration? Hydration. Make sure you're hydrated. So that is the process of using your tool, fasting, effectively so that you can get the benefit that you need in reversing your metabolism. Anytime you're going to use a tool, you want to know everything about the tool. How to use it, when to use it, should you use it, how it works, what I'm expecting. And that's what we do as we walk through our fasting process. And if you do that correctly, you will find that you will be immensely successful in improving your metabolism, reversing those disease processes as we talked about, and you will be healthy. That's our fasting. Stay by. All right, so when we talk about fasting, it's an incredible tool that we want to use, and so we encourage you every week we do a fast, and everyone, I encourage you once a week to work your way up to be able to fast for a 24-hour period. The benefits are tremendous, and it should be just a normal part of your routine. Just like you get up and brush your teeth, okay, I'm fasting today. Whatever the day is. Don't make it a random day though, but pick a day that this is going to be your fasting day. So it becomes a part of who you are. The Limitless Living Health Action Plan is amazing in its ability to help us move through the space of being healthy. So you want to make sure that you're doing all the things you can to be successful, and working on fasting is an amazing one. Okay, let's go ahead, and I saw some of our community members, so let's say hi. Let's see, where were we? So Kenti said, let's see, where were we? I want to make sure I don't miss any. So talk about that. Okay, hello. So Anthony says, good afternoon, fellow travelers. Hey man, thank you for coming through and hanging out with us. Of course, Kenti says, hello, happy Friday. And then Gion had said, hello, sis. Awesome. Well, everybody, everything that we do here is based on our Triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the shows, with the blogs, with the podcasts. We empower with the tools that we learn, and we encourage with the community that we are a part of, that you are growing, that you're building. The things that you've learned, you want to make sure that you're installing those into your life as a part of the process. This is not something that we do for a period, for a week or 2 weeks or 90 days. This is something that we are doing for the rest of our lives. And you will see on our channel, launched just today, you will see the accelerator program. So on the website, if you go to our website, you will see the accelerator program that's highlighted there. You click on that button, you'll get more information. If you join through the accelerator program on the website, then there's an accelerator price. But if you go and you join the YouTube channel, there is a code that you will get that will give you some additional benefits, right, as you are joining and signing up for the accelerator program. So I encourage everyone, join the accelerator program. If you want to get additional benefit, join through the YouTube channel. You get that code, that code, and it will help you as you get ready to sign up for that. If you're interested in personal one-on-one coaching, that also is on our website. You can get in there and you can work through that. But the idea is, this is not something that we're doing occasionally, but this is now something that we are becoming, and we're getting to become a part of who we are on a daily basis. If we're going to do that, we've got to have the structure. We got to have the planning, and so that we can implement those. And community is a great place, and I would love to come along and walk along with you as you move through that space. All right. So we will continue our fasting, right? We'll continue our fasting next week, but tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, we'll have video from the vault. Sunday morning, we'll have This Week in Review at 6 a.m. And then on Monday, we'll be right back here for Dwain Woode, MD Live. Next week, y'all, we are celebrating our anniversary here on the channel. So come through, hang out with us as we move through the week, as we continue being healthy, continue setting ourselves up for success when it comes to our metabolism. Thank you for being here. This is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life. Avoid complications. Go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted, and we are living limitless lives. Now go live a limitless life, and I'll see you as we move through the rest of the week. And then next week, of course, have a great weekend. Bye-bye, everybody.